Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Bradley is dropping
what it is. Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today, kids, do I have a treat for you. And boy, do I. Listen, I don't know if you guys have ever read the book 3 Feet from Gold. I have not, but I'm going to go read it 28 times. And by the way, let me introduce my guest today before I get on a whole tangent. Greg Reid, thanks for showing up today.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, the Bomb Squad's in for a lucky treat. I'm excited. I don't get excited much lately. You know, I'm like a big star now. I'm like Howard Stern. So now I'm like, I'll put you on Drop
Wait,
Bombs.
don't you know who you think you are?
Yeah. So and I love when people come in, because to me it's flattering that people will take a trip and, whether they're here for another reason or come here for this reason. And it helps my podcast grow. And I'm thinking, man, I love when people show up. So I was already excited that you were here, but I, thought keynote speaker. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know you were frickin' the Greg Reid that wrote 3 Feet from Gold. So we're going to talk about that. But the Bomb Squad's extremely lucky for one reason and one reason only, because this podcast, I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but all we do is basically shoot the shit and talk about stories, challenges, situations that we've seen, and talk about how we've solved them. Who better on earth, on the whole planet that's still alive, than Greg Reid to do that? I mean, I might not even drop any bombs because we wouldn't be able to hear anything. It's just going to be one long solid bomb. So if I don't drop bombs, it's only because I'm enthralled, ladies and gentlemen, just enthralled. And if you guys don't follow Greg already, go to @Greg S. Reid, R-E-I-D, on Instagram. Follow him. You'll start to, see who he is, what he does. He doesn't talk about it. He is about it. Think of him as the modern day Napoleon Hill, wouldn't you say?
It's a big shoe to fill, I got to tell you right now.
Yeah, but that's what you've done. You've traveled around. You've talked to millionaires, billionaires. You've narrowed it down. You've done today's version of Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, what a blessing. What an opportunity, huh?
Are you kidding, man? That would be the number one thing I'd like to do for the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So my full-time gig is I get to travel the planet to meet the most powerful and influential people and tell their stories in books and film. Not a bad gig if you can get it.
It's freaking unbelievable. How did you get into that?
Well, it's interesting. I had a mentor named Charlie Tremendous Jones. Oh, this guy was a father figure to me. And before he passed away, he started a nonprofit and put a board of directors together. And they're the biggest names of personal development. And Don Green was there, CEO of Napoleon Hill Foundation. Sure. They put us together and said, hey, you got to give this kid a shot. And they asked me to do 3 Feet from Gold, which started and sparked an entire new generation of personal development.
Unbelievable. Now, 3 Feet from Gold, let's talk about. What does that mean?
Well, it's about a story, R.U. Darby and Think and Grow Rich, the very first chapter. Yeah. He quit one 3 feet away from the biggest strike in the history of the world for mining. And I realized this, people quit one class short from a degree or sales or marketing, and so many people give up before the miracle happens. Yeah. First there's a dream, then there's a challenge, and then comes victory. Unfortunately, almost everyone quits in the challenging times. So I went around on a journey to interview amazing people to find out how they persevered through their most challenging times. And then Sharon Lecter from Rich Dad, Poor Dad and I got together and put that book out. 3 Feet from Gold, it's kind of a cool little success story. It's the only book that I know of that was actually published by Barnes & Noble themselves through their parent company.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Yeah, we did the first ever joint venture. One of the people we interviewed was Jack Mates. Do you know him?
No.
You don't know Jack. Okay, so Jack Mates started a company called Velcro USA. And I go, how in the world did you sell 5 billion people Velcro? And he goes, we never did. I sold 5 people. The head of automotive, aerospace, fashion, they found the application and brought it to the world. He said, stop trying to sell everyone. Just look for a way to corner a market and let them do the work exponentially. Yeah. So that's our attitude. So who's got a bigger email list, me or Barnes & Noble? Yeah. And by doing a joint venture deal, all of a sudden the doors of opportunity open you can never imagine.
There's another one. I always say, man, it's better to collaborate than compete.
Amen.
People are running around trying to compete. Like, I'm gonna write my own book,
right.
Greg. I'm gonna compete with you. Why not collaborate with people?
Well, there is a fine line between that, because I think competition also is the new form of collaboration in its own way. I'll give you an example. What would you rather do? Go to a restaurant down some little dirt road that's all by itself that's awesome? Or would you like to go to a restaurant in Row where there's all these amazing restaurants, and when you walk out of one, you see the Italian place across the street and might come back too. So if you do it in a friendly way, I think you can be collaborative and competition at the same time.
Well, I think, and I agree, but if I have a choice to compete or collaborate, I'm going to collaborate. And the reason why is my belief that if you create, right? If I'm competing, I'm taking what exists as mine. Like if me and you are competing for the same customers, I'd rather produce and create more customers or produce and create my own thing. Now, we're going to compete in a lot of situations because, that's just how it is. But if everybody just focused on creating more, there would be more for everybody to have. So if everyone just created, right, instead of competed, there would be more. And then I don't know how to explain it. You probably do.
Well, here's the way I look at it.
It's like a universal law of some kind.
It is.
If I'm creating and I'm like, listen, I'm not worried about Greg or taking what Greg has. I'm going to go create my own thing, maybe inspired by Greg, but I'm going to go create my own thing. And then all of a sudden, there's 2 books in the world.
Right.
Well, guess what? That's better than me fighting over 1 book, right? So the collaboration is really me saying, create. Creation is better than...
Yeah, we're saying the same thing, because at the end of the day, I go to these events and speak all over around the world, and as soon as people come to my event, I suggest all my people go to the other events.
I don't even want to bring up your event because it's secret.
Oh, shh! Don't tell anybody.
Man, I'll tell you, that's like the best event ever. Listeners, Bomb Squad. I call the listeners Bomb Squad. By the way,
that's amazing,
dude. The Bomb Squad. If you guys hear of an opportunity to go to an event called The Secret Knock, you want to get in on those events. Now, you're going to think, I ain't going to that shit. Tell me not who, because I've heard of The Secret Knock, and I'm like, who the hell's going to go there with not knowing who's there? But I didn't know you were putting it on, because that matters. You know what I'm saying? The fact that you were putting it on would have said a little more. I didn't know that you were putting it on, but I heard of The Secret Knock, which is funny because it's secret. But the premise is this. You come, you don't know anything. You
don't know where it is or who will be there. We just tell you the city and the dates and the time.
And not only that, but you're lucky to actually get in because he vets the customers or the attendees. Just because you want to, just because you're willing to, doesn't mean you can. Right?
Correct.
See, that's huge. I love that.
Look, if you're wearing a tinfoil hat and talking to dead aliens through your cat, look, I'm not going to give you access to President Vicente Fox. It took me too long to build that relationship with that person.
And by the way, when he says that it might be Vicente Fox. It might be frickin' Richard Dreyfuss. It might be frickin' Bill Gates. You never know who's at these events.
Unbelievable. I'm surprised myself sometimes. I sit in the chair across the hall and I go, how in the world did we pull this one off? But it's been really amazing because I believe if you can learn right from the horse's mouth, the people that have accomplished what you want to do, you can do great things. People say, what's the number one tip for succeeding in business? I say, who's getting the results you want for yourself today? Ask them to mentor you and then do it your own way with a spin. I go, that's it. When I wanted to be a best-selling author, I did not go to people who wrote kick-ass books. I didn't want to be a great writing author. I went to Barnes & Noble. I bought every bestseller, and I asked them how they did it. I duplicated it. Here we are 78 books later. And the whole idea...
You have 78 books?
78 books,
You've
45
written 78 books?
I've been part of, they've interviewed me. I've done chapters. I've co-authored. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I feel like maybe I should just turn this show over to you and not say another word.
Hey, guys, gals, and freaky pals, here we go. So the whole idea, though, interviewing these amazing people, folks will come up and say, how do I meet your friends? And we started Secret Knock in the living room, and it grew exponentially to hit the Forbes, Inc. and Entrepreneurs list for top business events.
Yeah.
And the way we did is by delivering. So instead of someone walking out on stage and then walking off, they hang out for a few days. So you can actually have a beer with the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, or you can have a mentoring session with the guy who invented the credit card magnetic strip and changed banking. And what happens if you can exponentially have that growth, that to me is where I feel like I'm giving back.
Absolutely. Man, that's huge. So Bomb Squad, listen up. If you ever hear Secret Knock and you're thinking, man, I'm not paying that kind of money. And by the way, that's nothing compared to the value. It's big time. But if you're thinking, I'm not buying that unless someone were to tell me some details, well, I would suggest you buy it anyway. You just show up in the city. They'll let you know if, I'm sure there's some sort of secret knock or some sort of notice. There's not too many people there. Only few are selected. So if you're looking around social media, you're following Greg and you hear about it and you apply and you get let in, trust me. Just make sure you walk in there and wear.
I appreciate the sales pitch. I'll pay you later. That was awesome.
Wear a hashtag Bomb Squad shirt.
That's it.
So he knows where you came
Dropping
from.
bombs. So I want to talk about the new book I've been working on called Wealth Made Easy. Brad, this is gold right here, brother.
Is it available?
No, not until April.
See,
so the people listening, no, you don't understand. You're the first group to ever hear any of this stuff.
Hey,
so what happened? There it is. So for 3 years, I went around the world and I interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion. And I said,
you didn't interview me.
Well, I'm going to get you next.
Why.
And I kept asking them, what is your wealth hack? And I'd spend 3 days with these people and deduce it down to a paragraph because that's what people want to know. So on every page, you're going to get a new hack. I'll give you an example. I sat down with Tonino Lamborghini. Everyone knows Lamborghini brand. And I said, how in the world did you guys create such a juggernaut? And he says, that's easy. All you need to do is create a product, good, or service that people will save their money to happily hand it to you. You'll never have to advertise. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, look, the realities are, no one's going to save all their money to buy your book or go to your event, but they're going to cash in their 401k to drive one of our cars. Wow. And he goes, you're not going to spend $2,000 a night to live in your own apartment, but you're going to take all the family's money and give it to a mouse with big ears and not even complain.
Isn't that crazy?
So the whole idea, if you can create a product, good, or service that people will save their money to give it to you, you'll never have a complaint, a chargeback, and you'll have fans for life. But more importantly, you'll create unlimited wealth and prosperity.
Now, folks, that came from Lamborghini himself.
Well,
is it Totino?
Tonino Lamborghini.
Tonino.
Yeah, he took it from his dad in the 1970s. So Tonino's first car he did was the Countach until the Diablo. And then they sold it to Volkswagen, and he's just doing amazing things.
Yeah.
But this one other cat that really inspired me. I asked him how he made $1 billion in dirt. I go, how'd you make $1 billion in dirt? And he goes, all you got to do is find a town that's growing exponentially at 25% a year. Go on Google Maps, it's free. He goes, I look for Broadway, Main Street, and I draw a line out 8 miles, and I buy the dirt. I rent the dirt to farmers who pay the lease. It's free to me, and I get vegetables for years. And as the town continues to grow at 25%, it ends up on my plot. Since I'm on Main Street, that's what I sell the big box stores for 800 times what I paid, $1 billion.
So say that again. I'm taking notes.
Isn't that great?
So you find a town that's growing 25%.
Look for Broadway, Main Street, draw a line out 8 miles, and you buy the dirt. You rent the dirt to farmers.
So you buy it 8 miles out.
Correct.
And then wait for the city to grow.
Correct. But meantime, you rent that land to farmers who are paying the lease, so it's free to you. And then what happens is you get vegetables as they're growing on that. And when the town gets to you...
Why do you get vegetables if the farmer leased it?
Because they end up giving you free vegetables.
I got you.
And the whole idea is as it grows and you end up on that plot, that's what you sell to the big box stores. And every one of these people I sat down to had a different hack, a different formula for success, so to speak. And when you break it down in these simple steps, you go, gosh, it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of seeing opportunity and capitalizing on it.
And perspective, because normal naysayers, you know what they'd say to that little tip you just gave? Here's what they'd say. What if I can't find anyone to rent it? And then they start coming up with excuses and reasons and rationalizations as to why they shouldn't just do what a billionaire told them that he does to be rich. and it starts to block all, it just starts to screw up the whole plan. If you follow what he just said, you go find a city that has 25% growth, you draw a line 8 miles out, you buy the property, you rent it to farmers, and you wait. Now, someone's going to start coming up with all the reasons that doesn't work when, in fact, it does work. But the reasons and the perspective is why you're coming up with those. Well, what if they don't rent? Dude, if the town's growing 25%, I'm sure it will rent. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
The billionaire's not asking why, what if, oh my God, what happens if. The billionaire's just doing it. And there's the biggest differentiator in anybody that I've found successful. Because, I read Think and Grow Rich, of course, and I thought, man, that'd be great. Like what you've done is wonderful. This Wealth Made Easy, that should probably be the next. That's the Think and Grow Rich of today.
I think so, because what we did is simplify and modify in modern terms what people are going through. And it's really interesting. One of the people I sat down through one of these interviews was Steve Wozniak, founder of Apple.
Sure.
And I asked him, I said, how did you and Steve have so much success in your life? And he says, well, what we did is we embraced our lack. He goes, where most people run from what they're missing, we ran toward it. I go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, when microchip processors came out, they were so expensive, we could only afford one of these chips. He goes, Jobs sold his Volkswagen. I sold my, calculator. We pooled our money to buy one of these little microchips. He goes, Hewlett-Packard would make these machines. They go from point A to B with 20 chips. They had all the money of God. He said, so I'd pull away 5 and configure it to go to A to B with 15. And then I'd pull away 5 and get it to go with 10. Finally, we went from A to B using our one chip. He goes, we were not trying to be innovative or cool or aerodynamic or slick. We could afford one chip. But by embracing that as an opportunity, we found the shortest, cleanest path. And by doing that, we changed the way people do personal computing for the rest of the world, for the rest of their life. He goes, where could you be in your own business if you stop looking at something as your greatest challenge, but it could just be your greatest blessing and opportunity in disguise?
That's right. Because when it boils down to it, look at anyone that's successful. Just doing it, is always an element. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Taking action.
Well, again, people talk about this law of attraction crap. Here's the deal. You don't attract what you want. You only attract more of what you are. Scientifically speaking, from Harvard, we have 64,000 thoughts a day. Majority of them are called ants, automatic negative thoughts. They're the reptilian part of our brain protecting us from
Amygdala?
Exactly. So the whole idea is to protect us from getting eaten by the dinosaurs when we came out of the caves. Well, if 64,000 thoughts we had a day, and majority of them were negative, then everything would be chaos and drama in our life. It's not. It's the action in the law of attraction that makes our dreams come true. You got to think it, feel it, but ultimately you just got to get off your ass and you got to do it. And the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, energy flow, rewards constant, massive action.
So let me ask you this. You've got a thing called Stickability. What is that?
Stickability was the follow-up book after 3 Feet from Gold. And that one, I went around the world meeting some just amazing human beings just to find out their blueprint. And the first person I saw was a guy named Marty Cooper. He was on 60 Minutes. And 3 days later, I'm in his office. He's the guy who invented the cellular phone. And I said, what does stickability mean to you? And he said, stickability has to be parallel with another word called flexibility. He says, if you're not willing to adapt and adjust, you get stuck. And he told the story about a spider monkey. He said, in the rainforest, you can't catch it. It's too quick and nimble. One hunter figured it out. He took a heavy log, drilled a tiny hole, dropped the peanut in, left it at the base of the jungle. The monkey would smell the nut, come down, reach his hand in, grab a hold of the nut, and his fist becomes so big he can't pull it back out, become anchored to the log. All he's got to do is let go, but he thinks that nut is nutrition and saving him. The hunter comes by an hour later, captures the elusive spider monkey. The big question is, are we holding on to our own nut in life? But it could be in the form of a job or a deal or fear or guilt or a car. And what we're holding on to, a dear life, because we think is saving us, could be the single thing that's leading to our own demise.
Dang, we're getting the chills.
Sometimes you got to let go so you can live to fight another day.
See, now these are all lessons. Now, I always think, like, where did I learn that? Because people always say, you know your stuff. Like, where did you learn it? And I don't ever know where I learned it, but like, I've learned that. I don't know if it was called Dog in the Manger. You ever heard of that?
No.
Where the dog freaking, sees the bone in its mouth in the water in the reflection, so it lets go to get the other bone. There's another lesson. That and the monkey, damn, dude, these are some good things. Bomb Squad, you're starting to see what I'm talking about. So Stickability is a book about that.
And it was a movie. Yeah, so we had a big release of it. It was absolutely amazing to get these people.
Where do I see this movie?
Now you can just go onto YouTube and download it for free. It was interesting. One of the people, you just gave me an idea. I haven't talked about him for years. His name is Gary Goldstein. He's the guy who did the movie Pretty Woman, Mothman Prophecies, and all this different stuff. And he was telling me how he got turned down and rejected by everyone when he wanted to do his films. And he says, imagine pitching a romantic love story about a prostitute to Disney. And he goes, there's a lot of rejection. And he goes, he got to a point where he had a defining moment. He called it a cul-de-sac moment. I go, what do you mean? So, well, a cul-de-sac is when you go in, there's no way out. And he goes, one time I just got rejected to the point where there was no one else. And I pulled up a chair and it says, you know what? I love you guys. But before I leave here, let me tell you the story and the reason why we have to do this movie. And he said that was his cul-de-sac moment. It wasn't just pitching the movie. He started telling the story, the reason why behind it. And that's what got their attention. And they funded it and became a worldwide sensation.
Mm. Hey, let's go back to Wealth Made Easy.
Yes.
Now, hey, when's that book hit the skids?
In April.
How do you pre-order?
You can go onto Amazon and pre-order
right now,
right this second. But I got to tell you something that is going to kind of either reinforce what you already been saying, or it's going to shock everyone's mind when you hear it. Okay, so I sat down with one guy who's worth just billions and billions of dollars, and I went to him. And this is a juggernaut moment for me. This is a life-changing moment I'm going to share with you guys right now. I went to him, I said, why are you a billionaire and I'm not? I go, I'm just as smart as you. He goes, that's easy. He goes, you believe all the bullshit lies that you spread to the world. He goes, you are the person who brings everyone down, and we thank you for it. Would you continue that journey? I went, oh, man. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you and all your purveyors of this hype are the people that actually do our jobs for us. He goes, you tell people the greatest lie that was ever told. And I go, what was that lie? And he says, to go find your passion and the money will follow. He goes, it's the greatest lie. He goes, please keep telling everyone, make more bumper stickers and do your memes. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, successful people look for, capitalize, and seize on opportunity. He goes, it's just business. He goes, you'll find someone who's a welder their whole life. When they retire, you'll talk them into opening a yogurt shop their first year because that's their passion. Unfortunately, 95% of businesses go out the first year, not because they're not taking action, not because they're not good people. It's because they're following a passion rather than an opportunity. And he goes, here's the best part. He goes, when they do go down, it's like an anchor. It pulls them down, and they'll hold on so long, they'll bring their wife and their kids and their car and their boat and everything with them. They go, oh, please keep that up. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, look, we're a game of Frogger. We ride a log until it has a dip, and we jump to the next log. We can never go down. It's just business. He goes, we milk these opportunities till we have so much wealth and abundance, we use that money to finance our passion. He goes, you guys are just doing it in reverse. He goes, we're the people that own all the stadiums and the football teams that all the people that are killing themselves for a couple $1 million down are playing for us. And he goes, until you change your mindset, he goes, you're not going to really understand. He goes, look for and capitalize on unexpected opportunities. Use that money to finance the universities, the ballet, the arts, all the things that are special on this planet. And I looked at him and I went, well, that goes against every single thing I've ever known and ever learned. And he says, well, it's time to do something simple. And I go, what? He goes, unlearn what you thought you knew.
Unlearn. See? This validates something I said the other day when people were always asking me, what do you do? What do you do? First of all, I don't think I'm that successful, especially because I'm comparing myself to these people you're talking about. So people think, oh, look, Brad succeeded. I'm not successful yet. I'm still on the journey just like everybody else. But everyone was saying, I was doing a keynote the other day and they're like asking me questions afterwards. How do you know this? How do you know that? And I looked at somebody and I said, sometimes it's not necessarily what you need to learn, but what you need to unlearn.
Amen.
And you just said that. So that validated. See, I know my stuff. I just freaking, dude, I'm just waiting to get where I'm going. Now, that may be the problem too, because I'm just waiting. I'm sitting there almost feeling blind. Like when I was writing your notes, I'm like, look for opportunities. I bought a website called lookingforproblems.com because when people ask me, how do I get started? I say, look for problems. Problems are opportunities. And what do most people do? They avoid problems. You don't believe me? Go ask somebody. Walk up to somebody and say, hey, you want a problem? Just say it just like that. Not mean, not menacing. Walk up to anybody and say, hey, you want a problem? And 99% of people will say, absolutely not. When in reality, those are opportunities.
Opportunities in disguise. It's interesting. The gentleman who invented the credit card magnetic strip validating system named Ron Klein, and he'll be at Secret Knock coming up. It's really interesting.
Hey,
yeah.
You can't say that.
There's a leak. So it's really interesting. He said back in the 60s, if you went to Macy's and you wanted to buy some dishes, they give you a credit card and it had raised plastic numbers and letters.
Yeah.
And they would look against a accordion list of numbers. And if your number wasn't on there, you had good credit and you could leave with your merchandise. They put it in a little machine and they go ka-chink, ka-chink and take a copy of it. And he says there's a way to put smarts in the card. And reel-to-reel tapes were the cool thing. So they took a slice of it, put it on the back of the card, and then they had to find a way to validate that number. And that's why today, he says, when you actually run your card through a credit card machine, you have to get that right speed because it's mimicking the speed of the reel-to-reel tape today. Now you are the human machine instead of just an actual reel-to-reel tape.
Interesting. Now that guy's probably loaded, no?
Well, the whole idea is first there's a dream, then there's a challenge, and then there's victory. He also invented the MLS, multiple listing service for real estate, and he just came up with this new invention. He automated the New York Stock Exchange, and he's got this new one. He's helping blind people see. It's unbelievable. He's going to unveil it at Secret Knock.
No kidding.
Pretty cool, right?
Damn, dude. How do I apply to come to that?
It's pretty crazy, right?
Am I automatically in?
You can come.
All right, thank you.
So it's secretknock.co. We left the M off so no one could find it, and then they still found us. But the guy who came this last time, because I can't tell you who's coming this time, but the person who came last time, Dr. Asaka, he was the guy that actually found the Higgs boson God particle in the CERN collider. They made the little mini Big Bang theory, right? So I love science. So I get to sit down with the people building the elevator to space to, the people that are doing amazing things. But one interview I got to share with you is my favorite one. If you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon's working on something called string theory. And I got to sit down with John Schwartz, who invented what string theory truly is. He's got the rights to the patent or the explanation of how everything is one. And I asked him a question, really simple.
What's his name again?
John Schwartz. Amazing human being. And I asked him, I says, what's the difference between successful people and failures? And he said something that changed my life forever. And he said, successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. And I go, what's the difference? He goes, opinion is based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience, like your family friends who've never done what you want, where counsel is based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. If you go to a family friend and say you're going to write a book, they're going to talk you out of it if they've never written a book. If you go to Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup, he'll say, sit down before you get started. Here's what you want to know, and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. John Schwartz said if we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring people's opinion, that's the day your life would change.
Now, describe how do you know opinion again?
Someone who hasn't done what it is. I'll give an example.
It's based on what?
Ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience. Look, right now, if you sat there and went to someone and say, I'm going to start a podcast. Well, if a family friend or whoever's never done one, they're going to tell you all the reasons why it's competition, too many out there, whatever it is. Yep. But if you go to someone who's doing it and kicking tail in it, they're going to give you a different perspective. It's funny. I went to Africa and I summited Mount Kilimanjaro. I finished all 80 bucket list items. And when I went to Africa to do it, I did not ask some surfer, dope-smoking kid in La Jolla where I lived to take me up the mountain. I found the Sherpa that I climbed it 800-900 times. Wherever they put their boot print, I put my boot print. I just follow the successful actions of others. When I went running with the Bulls, I said, okay, who wrote the definitive?
I'm doing that.
It's amazing. When you do, I'm going to give you the blueprint, okay? So we asked the guy who wrote the definitive book on running with the bulls and said, hey, look, we want to have a good time. I just don't want to get killed. What do I do? And he said, statistically speaking, if you stand in this one section, the bulls are going to run right by you. On the other side are the drunk people that are going to stampede themselves, like screaming fire in a burning building. He goes, but if you stand here, 0.00000% chance you're going to get hurt, but you'll have a good time. Where did we do? As soon as it ran, right there. And we got to enjoy the experience. So the whole idea is you can live these amazing adventures, but you can also do them logically and do them in a way that you almost guarantee success.
I think this may be my fave episode ever.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Yeah, well, again, because I'm learning. Normally I'm listening and validating and seeing if I agree. Now, if you said something I didn't agree with, I would say something. But this stuff right here, again, I'm learning, I'm listening, because you've talked to the people I want to talk to. You've already got the answers I'm looking for. So that's why I said let's keep going back to that Wealth Made Easy. Like, if you guys haven't already went to Amazon and pre-ordered it, you're foolish. Think and Grow Rich. This is just the next version of it. It's the next version. Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill went around to the Andrew Carnegie. People say it's Carnegie. No, Dick, it's Carnegie, actually. I didn't know that, did you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I said Carnegie for years.
But that's the way it's
I think Don Green's the one that corrected me, and I'm like, oh, it's Carnegie? But anyway, he went to all these people of that era and those times. Problem with Think and Grow Rich, and I told Don this too, and Think and Grow Rich is out of copyright protection, meaning the whole world owns it. And I was thinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to freaking study that book so well and just say it in today's language.
Well, read 3 Feet from Gold, brother.
Is that what that is?
That's exactly what it is.
Well, then I'd highly recommend you guys go
books...
get 3 Feet from Gold too, because that's what everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to know Think and Grow Rich without all the full width and hum flams and floob flabberies. You need to hear just normal ass frickin' talk,
right?
Because there's millennials that don't even know who Napoleon Hill is,
right?
And it's foolishness because the principles in that book live true till
have
today.
Stood the test of time. But here's a story that a lot of people don't know, is that Napoleon Hill was an aspiring magazine reporter, 23 years old, gained access to the richest guy of the world, which you just mentioned. And during the interview, Carnegie says, hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity. He says, work for free for 20 years and I'll introduce you to my friends. And Napoleon Hill reached in his pocket and said, work for free for what? And he thought about it. He says, not only will I accept it, but I'm going to complete that task. Carnegie says, you got a job, but then Hill questions, says, why are they going to talk to me? And says, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but Carnegie was a stickler for action and gave Hill 60 seconds to make up his mind to work for free for 20 years. And when Napoleon Hill walked out of the office, Carnegie pulled out a stopwatch. There was 31 seconds left. But here's what gets really interesting. Carnegie made that same offer to over 250 men before Napoleon Hill.
They had to think.
Correct. The whole challenge is they had something called the bad case of the one size. That means I'm going to take action once I get the big break, once I get the kids out of the house. And the best time to take action is the moment that strikes you. The biggest thing that holds people back, I always say, is their big butt. Not the one that you're sitting on, but I'd go do that. But it's always a but that holds you back.
That's what I was driving at over here with the property plan.
Yes.
People are going to think, well, what if is the but? What if it doesn't rent? Right?
Then put a mobile home park on there.
The 220 prior hills that didn't take action.
Correct.
They thought, well, let me think about this. What if my wife? So a what if and a but are the same thing.
Exactly.
I like the big but thing though. So what about quantum physics? What do you believe in there?
Quantum physics is amazing. All I do is spend time with these people. It's mind-boggling. I'm going to give everyone...
But quantum physics is similar to law of attraction, except for it doesn't agree with law of attraction. It says basically there's a frequency to everything on the planet.
I'm going to really bring that to home. But for people watching this, imagine this. If this over here is X and this is X... And people look at this and they go, man, look at this roadmap to get here. Well, some of us understand all you do is that, and it's already there. And the whole idea is everything can fold on itself exponentially. So in the airwaves right now, there's country music, rap music, and classical, right? And if you took a receiver and dialed into a frequency, you could pull it down from the ethers and enjoy it. Well, certain successful people believe that in the energy airwaves, there's every relationship, deals, health, wellness, everything's around us as well. And certain people tap the source. That's why when you're in the shower and you got that $1 million idea, you tapped in for a second. By the time you brush your teeth, it's down the drain. Well, certain people, including myself, know how to tap that source on an ongoing basis. And here is the way you do it.
Hey, hold on.
Yes.
I'm going to pre-bomb it. Pay attention, kids.
The energy highway is the exact same thing as an internet Google search. If we sat there and said, show me men's shoes, it would give you too many variations you couldn't get through it. But if I said size 10 shoes, red leather in Henderson, Nevada, within a 1 mile radius, then I'm going to get a different result. So it's the quality and the questions in which we ask is how we dial it in. It's the questions in which we ask is the frequency. So unfortunately, most people do this. They say, God, why does this always happen to me? This is why, you dumbass, and gives you more of that. That's what you asked for. And you sit there and say, when's this going to go to hell in a handbag? Tuesday at 4 o'clock. But if we sat there and started asking, what's the opportunity and a challenge I'm not seeing right now? Where's a person of affluence that's within my sphere of influence that I could call right now to help me through this? All of a sudden, guess what? Those answers start magically appearing. And I believe we are evolutionary animals. Every time I've crashed a car, I got a better car. Every time I've got divorced, I got a better wife. So for myself, everything that goes not my way, I'm sick. I get excited about it. I go, whoa, something must be coming better. But I ask the question, how can it get better than this? And what is coming down the road that I'm not seeing right now so I can prepare myself for it? And then all of a sudden, those things start falling in my lap. People go, man, you're lucky. No, I'm looking for it. Just like Rumi said, whatever you seek is seeking you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who Rumi is, but I like it.
It's funny. My kid, he's 6 years old. Wherever we go, no matter where it is, he pulls out money. He goes anywhere, he finds money on the ground. And I come home one day, I go, why is it no matter where we go, you find money? I look for it, Dad.
That's funny. That's good. Every time I find money, I don't care if it's a penny. I don't care what it is. I pick it up and I say to myself, money is attracted to me. Every single time. And when people say, dude, that's a dirty penny. I can't believe you got all the money in the world and you pick up a penny. A, I don't have all the money in the world yet. Where is all the money in the world? See, I'm going to start learning. I'm going to get specificity. But I pick up the penny because I want the world to know money is attracted to me.
Yes. So back to Wealth Made Easy. All right. Now this is going to be a kind of a different one too. I realized just doing a flow chart, there's a happiness quotient about people that are successful. And I found that 40 million and below is the new Beverly Hillbillies. These are the people that can fly first class, take their family on vacations. They're pretty happy people. It's the people worth $1 billion and more. Pretty damn happy people. I've not met one angry billionaire yet. But people worth like 100 million to 700 million, I don't think I'd wish upon any person alive.
Why?
They got 3 cell phones. They're sick. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're so far away from that goal of that B number that it almost eats them alive. And they're not satisfied. And it's really interesting to see this. And, if think about it, if you're worth $100 million, which is an unfathomable amount of money to me, you're only 1/10 of $1 billion. You're not even in the zone. So to them, they see themselves as broke, poor, insufficient, what have you.
That's my fault. That's my problem.
It's really interesting. People
but I'm
see
not
themselves.
Unhappy. So I'm like a Beverly Hillbilly with the ambition to do more.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And it was one of these things that's really weird is I asked all these people worth $1 billion. I go, what do you think about when you wake up? And they go, money. I go, oh, to make more? And they go, no. How am I going to get rid of it? He goes, you don't understand. If I gave away $1 million a day, I can't get rid of my money.
Because it stacks up so much.
Yeah. And I go, well, give it to your kids. He goes, I wouldn't do that to
Ruin them.
Yeah, he goes, they all get $10 million. Because that's plenty of money. They didn't do anything. They're $10 million. I go, well, give it to one of these UNICEF or one of these charities. They go, no, I don't know how they were going to manage my money. I worked too hard for it to just give it away. And he goes, so I wake up to figure out how I can have something that has a sustainable effect. He goes, there's nothing worse than going to Africa and building a well, giving water to a tribe that never had it, and a year later the well breaks, and I just screwed them up because You gave them something and it was taken away. He goes, so I got to find a way to be able to build these wells or whatever as an example and come back a year later to see them still operational to make sure that they got it for life. Yeah. And he goes, that's difficult to find. And he goes, so every day I wake up with this burning desire to find a way to literally leave a permanent mark.
If you have a choice, I'll either give you $100 million or you can earn and work your butt off for 20. Which would you pick?
At this state today, I would take the given because I've paid my dues. That's the fact.
That was just a litmus test. That was just a litmus test, and you've passed. Continue.
Yeah, I've paid my day. I'd be a good steward of that process.
Well, I didn't like the but because it to me it's irrelevant. Okay, I always ask everybody, and here's what most of them say, especially the ones that are trying to say whatever it is they want you to say.
But let me finish, because the $20 million earlier in life, the lessons that I've learned to this way to get to where I've got ongoing cash flow and things like that, I wouldn't change that, because if you're just given the money without having the knowledge of how to retain it and how to make it grow for you, it's worthless.
Yeah, but you're making an assumption.
That's true too.
See, what if I gave you $100 million and you lost 30? You're not learning?
That's true.
Yeah, now you still got 70.
But some people focus on what they lost.
I know, but this is one of those unlearned things,
yes,
Greg.
That's true.
We are taught you need to earn it to make it worthwhile. No, you freaking don't. You give me $100 million and I lose 30, I'm learning the same shit you're learning by making 20. Yes or no?
Absolutely.
So to me, it's like, shit, you give me $100 million, I'll be, that's the choice every time in my book, because I've unlearned the fact that you have to actually work for it to make it worthwhile. My dad, my grandpa, everybody and the dog used to try to tell me that. And I used to believe it to where, like, I won't ask for help. Dude, I tell people, ask for help. That's the mentoring. Hey, how did you get up the damn mountain? I stepped here. Shit, thank you. I'll step there. People are taught not to ask for help. You need to do it yourself. You want something done, you better do it yourself. Total bullshit. You there's no free lunch. Yes, there is. There's tons of free lunch. I do it every Friday here. As a matter of fact, all of the things that people are learned or educated on growing up, 99% of it is the reason they're not successful. From little, in my opinion, from little things that you start to believe. So I ask people, successful people, hey, what if I gave you $100 million, or you could bust your ass and work and toil for 20? And a lot of them will say, I'd rather work for 20. And I say, why? And that's their answer. Because I will learn, and then I'll be able to keep it. But nobody realizes you can learn the other way too.
The contradiction of this, though, just in dialogue, is you see these lottery winners that are given and influx with all this money, and then they end up back where they were. It's like a marathon runner. The fact is, if I went outside right now and tried to run a marathon, I'd die. But if every week I ran in a little bit more and a little bit more, I'd learn and build up stamina so I could run that. I think that's what happens right now. I'm now at a marathon state. So if I was given that opportunity, I could rise up. Unfortunately, water seeks its own level and brings them back to where they originally were. So if you're given $100 million or $1 million in the lottery, the chances are they lose that dough because they didn't have the...
Have you checked those statistics, by the way?
No. Well, I Googled it a year ago.
I've heard the stories of, well, you win the lottery, you lose it all.
Is
that true?
Yes,
I don't even know.
It was a high percentage chance.
So you know that
it was over 70 some odd percent.
Well, you know that 72% of statistics are made up.
Boom shakalaka
boom.
Boom.
And you know that 10 out of 7 people don't understand fractions. So it could be one of those deals. It could be one of those deals.
Where do you come up with this stuff?
Yeah, I make shit up sometimes. But I will tell you this. Look, if anyone ever, and this is never going to happen, but if it is, if someone wants to hand you $100 million and tell you to work for 20, take the 100 and listen. Be smart, because yes, you can lose it if you don't know. But as you're losing it, pay attention to how you're losing it, and you're going to start learning how to make it. Because there's a cause and a, what's it called? Cause and effect.
Okay, I'm still going to agree and disagree with you on this.
Please, that's what makes our podcast so loved.
Yeah, the difference is you're assuming, back at you,
100%.
You're assuming that everyone has the same knowledge, information drive as you and I. But again, if you just hypothetically took a homeless guy down on the street and gave him $100 million, chances are psychologically, mentally, whatever, he doesn't see himself as that.
He'd lose it all and kill himself.
Or
could be.
But the realities are, we're assuming that $100 million is
but
given
we're assuming
to just
he doesn't have any lessons too.
That's true too.
So you never know. But I'd say take the $100 million.
100%. I'm still on your side on that one. I'll split it with you. In fact, if someone gives me $100 million, I'll split it with you. You do the same to me. Deal?
Fair.
Good. Done. That's collaboration right there, folks.
We collaborated, and not only that, we have record of it. If I ever give her $100 million handed to me,
boom,
I'm
done.
I'm calling Greg. I'm saying, "Where's Greg Reid? I own 50."
I like that attitude. I'll get secret knock.
And I will do it.
That's it.
Yeah. And then we'll kick them down one each because they were listening.
I like that.
All right, just one.
Everyone's sharing.
We don't want to ruin you. We're gonna make you earn it.
So back to the Wealth Made Easy. It was interesting. I interviewed everyone from this guy who found all the sunken treasure that was
Jacques Cousteau.
No, it was another gentleman who went around, Greg Stem, and he actually went down and got these ships and started pulling it from the ground. I mean, he pulled out $500 million out of one ship.
Wow.
And all this different stuff.
Does he get to keep that?
Well, that was the conversation. Sometimes it gets in probate. Sometimes the governments argue where it's at, the whole bit. But he's making still a killing no matter what from all these discoveries. Yeah. Everyone's got a different way of making their dough. But one gentleman, his name was Reid Knight, and he has the world's largest armory business down in Florida. He makes all the weapons, AK-47s for the government. And I said, how in the world, and by the way, 7th grade education, and I said, how did you make all your dough? He said, it's easy. He goes, all I did is I listened to my customers, asked them what they wanted, and then I gave it to them. He says, what do you mean? He says, well, he goes, I had a chance to meet with these special forces Green Beret guys. And we said, what's your biggest challenge? And they said, well, we can't hit our targets at night. He says, why not? He goes, I can't see them. He says, what if I took those night goggly things and I made a scope for your rifle? Would that help you? I said, of course it would. So they did that. And all of a sudden the military would come to these people and say, hey, why is it that you're getting your targets at night? And says, well, we're using one of these night goggly scopes. Well, now all of a sudden the government, instead of having to wait 5 years and shop it out to everybody, went directly to him to give him the business. And now they need him for every single person. And so the whole idea is if you can just listen to your clients and then give them what they desire, amazing things can happen.
And again, see how simple that is? Like, frick, there's people out there right now running a successful business trying to figure out how to get it to the next level. They are going to conferences. They're freaking reading all these books when all they got to do is ask their customers, hey, how can I help you better? And the customers say, well, it sure would be nice if you did this, this, and this, and then give it to them.
Yes.
Simple.
Have you ever heard the Bowie-Knife Story?
No.
This is really cool. So there's a little town in 1700s, and it's a general goods store. And all of a sudden, a guy comes in and says, hey, do you have a Bowie knife? He says, no, we don't sell that. We have canned goods. And he says, okay. 2 days later, someone comes in and goes, hey, I need 5 Bowie knives. We're going to go on a hunting expedition. He goes, look, we don't sell those. We only sell this. Then all of a sudden, a whole troop comes in town and say, hey, man, we need Bowie knives for everybody. He says, look, I don't sell them. And he took a sign and put it in the window. It says, we don't sell Bowie knives. 6 months later, canned business doesn't do very good, and the business folds, realizing if he would have just sold Bowie knives, he'd be a millionaire. So sometimes when our customers tell us what they're looking for, we need to change our perspective, see that opportunity, and take advantage.
Let me run these by you. I came up with one time, they wanted me to speak at this big event. I said, listen, I'm going to try to look back and take the nuggets that I provide at this event to help people go, because you notice how when you look back, it's easy to see what you did, but when you're looking forward, it's like very difficult and confusing to figure out everything. So I look back and I said, what did I really do? First thing I did was take a chance, right? I quit a job. I freaking said, hey, I took a chance. A lot of people won't take a chance. You know why? They fear judgment. They fear what might happen when in reality, shit doesn't even happen that you think will. So take a chance. Number 2, solve problems. I became very good at solving problems, and I looked for problems. I wanted to solve problems because I knew that the problems being solved would allow me to continue. Third one was make adjustments, something you just touched on. I said, listen, you got to make adjustments. I started out as a trainer. I was going to go be competition for Grant Cardone. Then I switched and said, let me service Grant Cardone and people like him. So I made adjustments along the way. Third one I did was started listening to people. When I was growing up, I didn't listen to anybody, which was stupid. I didn't seek mentorship. I didn't even listen to opinions. Like, shit, you couldn't tell me anything. I had to learn the hard way. So I have a book eventually coming out whenever called The Hard Way, which is stuff I learned the hard way so you don't have to. The fourth one was that I started to seek mentorship and counsel and learn every day. Like, you need to be learning every day. Train your ass off. And then number 5, just outdo yesterday. Like, everybody's comparing themselves to the guy on social media with the Ferrari. Well, dude, you don't know that person's story. Like, you're comparing yourself to someone that you should be comparing yourself to, right? And now you start to feel bad. And then in your words, dream, challenge, and victory. Well, when I start comparing myself to Greg Reid, well, dude, I don't get to go talk to Billy. That's making the challenge so much more difficult because I'm comparing myself to you when I should be comparing myself to me. Did I outdo yesterday? Did I do a little better than the day before? Because that's how you gauge you. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the lessons were: take a chance, solve problems, make adjustments, train your ass off, and outdo yesterday.
Love it.
Is there any mistakes in those?
No, 100%. And it was interesting because when Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, the biggest chapter was called The 6 Ghosts to Fear. And he talked about the fear of old age, fear of loss of love, fear of all these different things. And I just couldn't relate to that. And so Don Green challenged me is to modernize the 6 Ghosts of Fear.
Yeah.
And I came down to just 3 that really, I think, are true. 1, the fear of pain, the fear of loss, and the biggest one is the fear of judgment, the fear of what other people think. Mm-hmm. And there's a coffee mug at Disneyland that says, what would you do if you couldn't fail? I think that's bullshit. It's like, what would you do if you stopped giving a shit what people thought? Would you ask that person out for a date? Would you start that business? And we're so worried about what people are thinking about us. And the funniest thing is no one's thinking about us. They're dealing with their own life situation.
That's.
And the whole thing is most people don't take advantage when the opportunity comes and seeks them. You know, I had an aha last month, and I hope you'll get a bomb on this one because this one, it was kind of one of these epiphanies. I said, what if God or the universe gave us 100% of every single thing we ever asked or prayed for, only we sent it away because we didn't like the packaging in which it came in? I said, what if I sat there and said, God, I need $100. Please, I'll do anything for $100. I'm on my knees begging. I need $100. Guy pulls up in a pickup truck. Goes, hey, I'm running late for an event. I got all these aluminum cans worth about $150. Will you get them out of my truck? You go, I don't want those stinky things. Well, I asked and prayed for $100. It was delivered right to me. Only I didn't like the packaging, so I sent it away. Just like a parent, telling a kid to eat food on their plate when they won't finish what it is, they can't ask for more. Well, what if the universe and God shut us down because we didn't appreciate what was already given to us when it was exactly what we asked? So we have to have clarity in our statement, but also start seeking and understanding whatever you seek is seeking you. Just look for packaging in which it comes in. Drop that ball.
Whatever you're seeking is seeking you.
Yes. You know what's interesting? When I did 3 Feet from Gold, Brad, I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but
is this your quote or who says this?
Rumi.
Who's Rumi?
He's a great philosopher from back in the day, like a Buddha.
I always thought that's like what a Cadillac was.
Rumi's great. You're going to love it. R-U-M-I. And what's interesting is, back in the day when I did 3 Feet from Gold, I went around the country interviewing all these people, these amazing human beings. And I asked all my family and friends to go with me to meet them. And no one ever showed up. Everyone had a bad case of the one size. No one came with me. And then I was meeting with Bob Proctor, who was in The Secret. And when he and I did Thoughts or Things, we sat down together and he says, the secret of success is to find a way to get people to pay you money to do what you're already going to do. And it changed my life because...
That's why I was going to be a gigolo.
Boom shakalaka, baby. There you go. That's a pattern interruption right there, huh? And what's interesting is when I did my next book, Stickability, people waited in line and paid me a fee just to sit in a chair and watch me write this book because the first one had so much success. And what's interesting, my takeaway is what's common sense to you and me is genius to someone else. There are people right now that would pay good money to sit in this room just to watch to see how you run and operate a podcast. But you think it's just part of your day or your job or activity, but other people would love to learn so they could do it for themselves, or then perhaps learn and then use a studio with their own backdrop or what have you. And most people don't see that they have gifts within their hands. They're just not put to use all the time.
Quantum physics. I want to stick on that one for just a smidge, because you say specificity. Great questions you gave. Instead of this, ask better questions. If someone were to wake up tomorrow morning and they wanted to start tapping into these frequencies, how do you find what the frequency is?
It's the questions in which you ask. I'll give you an example. Before I go to bed, I say, how can it get any better than this now? How do I create unlimited wealth and prosperity where it's always enough and more than I can spend, by creating the ideal life for my son and I? That's how I go to bed. And by throwing that question out, all of a sudden I wake up. The
universe answers.
What do you know?
And do you have to? Are there people not recognizing the answers? Kind of like the aluminum cans.
Correct. The packaging, they send it away. How many times we go, God, I'm looking for that perfect spouse or that perfect significant other, and they show up, they're ideal, and they go, but they're a redhead, right? You go, but they're exactly what you just asked for.
So how do you recognize that, though? There's people
awareness.
They're not being intentionally foolish. They don't see the $100 in the cans. How do people recognize the opportunities?
Awareness. That's it. As soon as you start being aware and attuned, education is the key to everything. It's so funny. Right now, Michelle's sitting here in the room with us, and I've offered, I couldn't even tell you, 1,000 people opportunity to go around the country with me and meet my friends and hang out. And only like 5 or 6 ever signed up. They saw the opportunity. And by doing that, they keep getting a leg up to meet the same people that I'm meeting. So many people have that fear that holds them back. And sometimes it's that fear of worth, fear of worthiness, or they're not ready for it. When in fact, look, they're going to be literally dumping a bunch of dirt on our face within years. So doesn't it make sense while we're alive is to do the very best we can and seize every opportunity imaginable?
Absolutely.
That's it. It's really interesting.
Like, I want to go book a trip to run with the bulls.
Oh, I'm going to hook you up. When you go do that, I'll tell you exactly who to contact, how to make that happen, or I might just go with you. It's absolutely amazing.
Man, I'll tell you what, that's a freaking bucket lister right there.
Well, it's interesting. So I had 80 items when I was 17, 18 years old. And last year I crossed the last one off my list. And
Which one was it?
To get a PhD. Again, barely graduated high school. And a friend of mine, who's the head guy of Pfizer, he invented the drug Zoloft and all this different stuff. I was telling him this was my bucket list item. And he says, well, you're not going to believe this. In India, there's this university. They have 37 campuses across the country. It's like Harvard, MIT. He goes, last year, they gave an honorary doctorate to Ted Turner. And he goes, I'll see if they'll give you one. He calls me a week later. He says, you're not going to believe it. They called me before I could call them looking for someone to give it to. And he goes, they've chosen you. I go, holy smokes. I go, well, reciprocation, what can I do for that college? And they said, well, we would like to have a good keynote person for the commencement speeches. So I called my buddy Tonino Lamborghini. I flew in him from Italy, and Lamborghini and I went around the country talking to all these kids, tens of thousands at a time, doing these amazing conferences, meeting people by giving back and, I guess, receiving at the same time.
Wealth Made Easy.
Woo! It's a good book.
Well, I know the time's running out, and you can't be here all day, so I'm trying to get the gems. Wealth Made Easy.
That's right.
Give me a few more tidbits out of that story.
Well, they're going to keep coming and flowing. I don't want to give the whole book away, but I will say this. I realize, like in sports, we just had the NFL, the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
A quarterback never throws the ball where a wide receiver's standing. They throw it downfield and let them run to it. One guy I was talking to, his name is Mark, up in Canada, and he's a big hotelier, whatever they call that. He owns like 300-400 hotels and all the big chains. And we were meeting in this one fancy hotel. I mean, it was fancy. He paid $72 million to build it, and it was in the middle of nothing. I'm talking, listen to me. There wasn't a gas station, a road, a traffic light, nothing. In the middle of a field, he built this giant thing, and it was for extended stay hotel. And I was talking to him. I go, I just don't get how you could be so smart and be so stupid to build this hotel and spend this money in the middle of the field. He goes, come with me. And we walked around the building, and as soon as we did, all of a sudden we saw these cranes and these backhoes and stuff. He goes, see that? He goes, yeah. He goes, that right there is going to be the largest long-term hospital in the entire nation of Canada. He goes, people are going to come here for heart transplants, cancer, things of this nature. He goes, while they're building it, the only place for all these engineers to stay is my hotel. And as soon as they're done building it, when they come to stay with all their family, because they have to be here a long time, I've got the only place that's going to have all the suites that's connected inside the parking lot that hasn't been built yet.
Let me give you one of them theirs. Listen, where do you get this book? Amazon.com. Go get your pre-orders, folks. Go follow Greg S. Reid on Instagram, at Greg S. Reid. Is that your favorite place to hang?
It really is. I'm becoming one of these guys. Yeah, I got like 500,000 followers over there, and I do more DMs, the hip term right now, than I do emails. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Instagram's the spot. Like Facebook,
gone.
You know, I don't even know. I can't find anything on Facebook. People say, well, I messaged you. I didn't see it. Instagram works perfect.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang. Hit me in the DM. So people can hit you in the DM?
100%. In fact, it goes directly to my cell phone, directly to me.
You don't have a media team that answers?
No, I do have a media team, but I handle all that stuff because I like to engage with everybody that's reaching out. I mean, look, I'm just a regular cat. So if someone wants to take their time to reach out to me, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. If I can send you a book or give you something or give you some counsel, 100%, count me in. The answer is yes.
Do you have a podcast?
I don't. I'm on
Dude,
one
you
podcast.
need one.
I'm on one right now called Brad Lee's Dropping Bombs. I'll tell you that. It's pretty awesome.
But you need one. Like, I'd subscribe to that one just
to
listen. I mean, you could go on for years.
Well, that's what Secret Knock is, bro. I mean, that's why we did that, is so we could create an outlet to bring all these people where you actually meet them and hang out with them and have coffee with them. I mean, it's so mesmerizing when you're there.
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity to like get what you know out to the kids of the world.
That would be amazing.
Well, that's what my passion is, because there's a lot of kids that are going to be in charge of our future, and if we don't get the knowledge to them, we're going to have a bleak future.
Yes. My son last month had the #1 best-selling audio track on Amazon. He's 6 years old. And he started doing it because he does this mantra. Before he goes to bed, he yells down the hall, mantra, if I forget it. And I go in and he says, my name's Colt. I'm happy. I'm powerful. I'm successful. I'm worthy. I help people. My name's Colt. And he has to say that before he goes to bed or he can't sleep.
Well, that's freaking awesome. He's going to probably end up being freaking something massive. I almost wanted to write that down. I'm going to go tell my kids. See, that's the thing. It's like I always tell my kids to do stuff like that, and they won't do it. It's like, shit, I need parenting knowledge. How do you get your kid to do that on their own? Because when you make it, okay, what's your mantra? And now they're forced, they don't really internalize it. If they're doing it on their own, that means you're in business.
That's right.
You force them to do it, and they're freaking despising you. And pretty soon it's like, oh, you know, my kids. I have 2 little girls right now. My other kids have grown. My kids, it's like they're really sweet and funny, but they're kids. Like, they're not doing these things. I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? To where, like, because if I were a kid again, I would want my dad to raise me to be successful. My dad raised me to be resourceful.
Correct. And I again, what would you rather have?
Well, you know, resourcefulness in that word, but no, if he would have just handed me $100 million, shit, maybe I'd be like Arthur. Remember Arthur?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I can only say, well, I wish, but everybody's grass is always greener. But my dad gave me some gifts, making me resourceful by leaving me alone. Like, we were kind of raised where, you know, we didn't die, but we weren't parented. Yep. We weren't taught anything other than shut up.
Okay, but this is all fairness, though. Our generation, we had 7 minutes a day FaceTime with our kids. Or with us. And now today's generation, we have all this FaceTime with our kids. So our kids are going to grow up and go, man, they would never go away. They were always there. And it's interesting because my son is kind of like a petri dish for me. It's like, you know, personal development thing. We had a really interesting experience the other day, and this is a little vulgar, so I apologize in advance. But he was putting away his Nerf gun. He has a Nerf gun collection. And it was all a mess because he got done playing. And I said, hey, dinner's ready in 5 minutes. He goes, no problem, Dad. I'm putting away my stuff. 5 minutes goes by. I go, Colt, we got to get in dinner. He goes, Dad, I'm almost done. I'll be right there. And being a dad, old guy, I go, get your ass in here. Dinner's ready. And he comes in and he goes, Dad, you're a fucking asshole. 6-year-old kid. And he was frozen like a deer in headlights because he thought he was going to get whooped. And I go, Colt, I said, you said that in the exact right context. I go, I appreciate that. I go, why am I a fucking asshole? And he goes, all I wanted to do was put away all my Nerf guns so they're organized. So when I'm done eating, I can go to bed and I don't have to think about it. I went, son, you're absolutely right. I am a fucking asshole. I go, but more importantly, you don't talk to your dad that way. Let me teach you about respect. And we did, and we talked it out. And I realized if I would have just beat him or yelled at him or whatever, like my dad would have done to me, he would have been reinforced for the rest of his life that doing what's right and being organized and, you know, being in control was a bad thing. So I think today's generation of the way we're parenting is going to be pretty cool for the kids as they get older.
Yeah. So let's say, you know, tomorrow is your last day here. What would you go tell Colt? You have 3 things to ensure his life is going to be as blessed and awesome as it can be, but you only have 3 things you can tell him. What are those 3 things?
Beautiful as I got 78 books and all these movies and things of legacy to give him back. I understand. But what I'm saying is that the reason I've done that is so he'd have that whole nugget.
But he doesn't get them. You only get
so 3 nuggets.
The
1.
3 of the best. The 3 of the things that you would say out of everything.
All right.
You must learn these 3 things.
I would say, number 1, seek counsel, not opinion. Because that is the biggest thing that, if I would have learned earlier, would have changed my life. Door number 2, that we are a reflection, you know, the people we hang around the most, and our income, attitude, and lifestyle is the average of the group. So choose your friends wisely and make sure that you surround yourself with people you have respect for and not people you have influence over. And then last but not least, I would say that there is no such thing as legacy. All we can do is the very best and live by example so that his kids can have it passed on, so that hopefully they'll take that torch and they'll carry it to their next generation.
Now, folks, if I was you, I would rewind and write those down, because from a dude that's ran around, talked to all the billionaires, all the freaking millionaires, all the mistakes, all the lessons, all the books he's written or has been involved with, all the success principles. And I don't know how old you are, but I'm telling you, you've learned a lot of shit. He just paraphrased the last 3 he would give his own son to make sure that they lived their best life.
Yeah.
You should write those down, folks.
One of my favorite little ahas came from a wordsmith, a philosopher named Evander Holyfield. You ever heard the boxing dude?
Sure.
And I said,
met him once.
Exactly.
Thought he was going to punch me.
Amazing guy. To me, it was just phenomenal. I said, how did you win so many heavyweight championships? He goes, all I did is raise my standards. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, in sports, I showed up early. I left late. I invented exercises. I had a higher standard and I won more championships. He goes, where could you be in your own business if you stopped looking at everyone else and you raised your own standards? I go, but didn't it hurt? He goes, yeah. He goes, when you're in a fight, though, you don't focus on the pain. You don't focus on the blows. If you focus on the pain, you end up on your back knocked out. And he pulled me in tight. He's an Adonis of a man missing half an ear, bitten off by Tyson. And he says, when you do win the championship, he goes, everyone will come to their feet and chant your name. They raise their hand in victory, and a guy puts a big shiny belt around your waist. And at that moment, and at that second, you won't feel even one of the punches you took along the journey. But the guy in the losing locker room will have every bruise, every excuse for the rest of their life, wishing they had a higher standard.
Folks, what a way to end it. If you're not following this guy after this word, I'm requesting that you unsubscribe to Dropping Bombs. Unfollow Brad Lee and never speak forth again. Man, this was an awesome, awesome time. Greg, appreciate you coming up here. I'm definitely inviting you back. Anytime you come to Vegas, come back and do another one. You're one of those dudes that we can frickin' have 100 episodes from, huh? And bring her with you. And that was very smart, by the way, that you decided to follow him around.
You have chosen wisely.
I'll follow you around. Like, shit, this is like, can we go back and do what you did?
That's great.
Like just the last 3 years, let's go retrace your steps. I'm telling you, man, folks, if you're not following this guy, you better. And if you don't, go to Wealth Made Easy, because I'll bet you $50 that's a bestseller, and I'll bet you it's going to be helping more people than you can imagine. Get your kids to read it, buy more than one copy, give it out as gifts. Share this episode out. Go rate it, tag it. We got about 7 billion downloads on each episode, and I'm looking for the 16 people in Bangladesh that never heard of it. So just share, man. Share and tag. Till next time.
Nice. That was awesome.